In this presentation, we're going to go over the features of Check the Dose and how to use it. If you have any questions at the end of this presentation, feel free to contact me and I'd be happy to answer them for you. Before we get started into the features, I think it's important that we look into why we need something that helps us with our pediatric dosing. In this specific study, they studied less than 18-year-old pediatric patients in out-of-hospital cardiac arrest. They had a total of 497 critical transports during that study period, 35 of which were identified as out-of-hospital cardiac arrests, again less than 18 years old. Of those 35, they found that 80% of those cases had a safety event identified. Many of them found that epinephrine overdoses were identified 31% of the time, and most of which those overdoses were tenfold. Another study was done with 8 Michigan EMS agencies of patients less than 11 years old between the years of January 2004 and March 2006. They determined that a medication error was defined as a 20% deviation from the weight appropriate to the dose. 230 of these children received medication and documented weight. Of these 230 children, there were 360 medication administrations given. Some of these were given multiple meds, which is why the number was higher. They found 125 errors in these 360 medication administrations. Albuterol, which requires no calculation, was given incorrectly almost a quarter of the time. Atropine, almost half. Diphenhydramine, over half. Epinephrine, 60%. And they found out that if they gave IV-IO epinephrine of 1 to 1,000, that they overdosed these pediatric patients over 800%. They determined that medications delivered in the pre-hospital care of children were frequently administered outside of the proper dose range when compared to the patient's weight recorded on the pre-hospital medical record. They determined that EMS systems should develop strategies to reduce pediatric medication dosing errors. And through rough extrapolation of the findings based on 2000 census data, it was determined that 21,700 children ages 11 and younger would receive incorrect drug dosages in the pre-hospital setting each year. A review was done of the previous study we just looked at, and it was determined that pediatric patients were more likely to get an incorrect dose than a correct one. They further went on to say if you took albuterol out of the equation, it was down to 1 in 2,000 patients to finally see a sick kid. To remain proficient in caring for a critically ill patient with the added emotional stress of it being a child, every 2,000th run, for most of us that will be many months to many years, is a great challenge. On top of that, in the rare and critical case, one must immediately and accurately perform calculations. Even in the best and slowest of circumstances, many of us would find that difficult and want to repeat and verify before administration. So why are there so many errors? Here's a list of 8 things that I came up with. You have increased stress, fear of doing harm, fear of not knowing the correct dose or calculation, increased sense of responsibility, you're always taught to memorize, lack of true pediatric calls, lack of pediatric training, and pride, as in I just don't need a cheat sheet. A national survey demonstrated a significant number of paramedics are aware of pediatric dosing error and safety systems specific to pediatric patients are lacking. Paramedics view pediatric drug cards and eliminating drug calculations as helpful, and this is where something like Check the Dose comes in. Now that we've looked at a few studies and know why it's important to have something like Check the Dose, let's get into the features and see how Check the Dose can help answer some of those problems. After you log in, this will be the first screen you see. Before you can select any dosages, the first thing you need to do is select a weight. You do this by selecting this area. You slide it left and right to select your desired weight. You can either pick one based on approximate age, weight in kilograms, or weight in pounds. You'll notice this selection we selected 12 kilograms or approximately 23 months. You'll also notice that the color changed to match the color that you had selected. These are all industry standard color coding for weights, so any weight estimated tape will work with this system. You'll also see a set of vital signs that are approximations for that specific age and weight. These can be edited if you find something that doesn't fit your demographic. Many protocols require a certain age to be met in order for a medication to be given. For example, in our protocol, you must be at least 15 years old to receive ketamine in order for excited delirium. Well, in our setting, if you would have selected a weight that was less than 15 years old, but the person is actually 15, the logic in check the dose will not show you that specific medication. There's a few others in our protocol that do this as well. So what we've done here is we've enabled a feature called Edit Age. After you select a weight, you then select the Edit Age button. You'll notice that the slider changes to show you ages in years and months. Slide that left and right and select the appropriate age. In this setting, you'll notice that it now says 2 years old with still saying 12 kilograms. Many other systems require you to give an increased weight to make the age match. And if we're trying to dose people correctly, we want to dose them based on their actual weight. So this feature allows us to show you medications for the correct age and weight. After you've selected your desired age, you can then move down to one of the 3 blue buttons. The first one we're going to cover is Meds and Equipment. This button will show you every piece of medication and every piece of equipment that you carry and show you the specific dosage for the desired weight. After you select Meds and Equipment, you'll get one of these 2 screens depending on the type of phone you have. If you have an Android phone, you'll see the screen on the left. If you have an Apple phone, you'll most likely see a screen on the right unless your screen size is big enough to handle the data on the left. There is a way to manually go back and forth, but whatever your phone automatically shows is what I recommend viewing it in. But if you have Android and you want to view it how the Apple users have it there on the right, you can make that change. I'll leave that up to you. But if you do make the change, we'll cover the important things that were getting cut off. So if you do make the change and it's cut off, you'll know that your phone won't work with that setting. The first thing we're going to go over is this tab section up here. You'll see there's 3 tabs: medication, drips, and equipment. What you're viewing right here is the medication tab. Obviously you can tell that it's darkened out. The medication tab is going to show you every drug that you carry in your med box and the exact dose to give for the selected weight that you chose. The drugs are listed out in alphabetical order, and they also have next to them or below them either the treatment that they're for or what we call a custom display label. For example, the one on the left, adenosine, shows first dose and second, third dose. Those are what we call custom display labels. Normally that would say SVT, but if they both said SVT, you wouldn't know which one came first or second, though for most of us we know that the lower dosage would come first. But there are medications in here that could be confusing. For example, ketamine has 5 different doses. If we didn't label what they were for, you wouldn't know which of the 5 doses goes to which type of treatment. So this here is going to give you all the information you would need. You'll see the medication, what it's used for, and then below that is the concentration. Now you always want to verify that the concentration you hold in your hand matches what's listed on Check the Dose. If it does not match, Check the Dose is going to provide you wrong information because the concentrations don't match. Now, South County Fires tried to work really hard to make sure we only have 1 concentration out there, but if you do find that yours doesn't match, you need to contact your MSO so that can be corrected. Next to that, you'll see the dose, which is the actual medication dose to be given, followed by the correct amount of volume to draw out to give that particular dose, and then also the route. Some medications, you want to make sure that you view the route because some of them may say all the same information but have different doses, and the only thing that's different is the route. So you'll want to make sure you pay attention to that. Now, if you select, on the previous screen, if you selected one of the medication names, this is what your screen will go to. For this example, we see midazolam. So what would happen is you'd click on midazolam, the name, and you would get this screen. This is what we call the drill down, and it basically shows you all the information that has been input by the administrator on the web. If, for example, sometimes they might type some notes. That might show up here. In this example, there were no notes typed, so you don't see that. but you can kind of get an idea of all the features if you want to look up what the prescribed dose is. For example, this midazolam is 0.2 milligrams per kilogram. It just kind of is a way for you to view specifics about that medication. Now from here, you'll notice on the screen the bottom arrow is pointing to the protocols button. Right here, if you push that protocols button, it will pull up the protocol for midazolam. So whatever medication you drill down into, whatever medication name, if you push that protocol button, let's say you wanted to look up, you just wanted to view epinephrine, and you had drilled down, and right here, instead of saying midazolam, it said epinephrine, and you push protocol, it will pull up the epinephrine protocol for you to review. That works for any medication that you're going to see here. Now that protocol button will do something else with the treatment, which we'll go over later. But again, if you want to look up a specific medication, you can do it this way, and I'll show you another way in the upcoming slides. So here we're back to the three tabs along the top: medication, drips, and equipment. Here we've slid to the right one into drips. And again, we have all of our drips listed out here in alphabetical order. Every drip that you carry, if there is something not listed here, you need to let your MSO know so we can get it listed. Below the medication name, you'll see either the treatment or a custom display label, or you might see, as you can see down here, the third mag sulfate says multiple treatments. Multiple treatments can also be listed under the medication tab, but that means that every dose for mag sulfate, no matter what it's used for, it's all the same dose. Whereas on this example, mag sulfate, eclampsia, and seizing and not seizing have a different dose. But every other use for a mag sulfate drip is with 2 grams in a 250 ml bag, 125 drops a minute, using a 10-drop set will give you the dose that you need to achieve. Below that custom name or treatment or multiple treatments, you'll see a concentration. This is how to mix your drip. If you mix your drip differently, then the numbers, the drip drops per minute, won't help you. So you need to make sure that you drip this, that you create your drip mix like what's listed here. If there's something the department wants to mix differently, you just need to let your MSO know so that change can be made. To the right of that, you'll see the drops per minute, and to the right of that is the drip set to use to achieve the appropriate dose. Below all that, you'll see there's two blue circles. One says tap and one currently says 0 drops per minute. This feature allows you to make sure that you're giving the correct drip rate. So every time your drip set drips, you tap the blue button there that says tap every time. And to the left of that, that 0 will turn into a number. So for example, that mag sulfate multiple treatments, we would tap until we got that reading to say 125 drops per minute. If it says 100, that means you need to turn up your speed. So you can either tap this before and figure out what the drip rate should be and then set it according to that, or you can verify what the drip rate is as it's flowing right then. So it's a way to make sure that you are matching your drip rate. It is good to be aware that mag sulfate eclampsia seizing 500 drops a minute. You can't drip that fast. That's probably just going to be wide open. Also, hydroxycobalamin there for the adult, it is wide open. So you're going to hit a rate where the drop rate is going to be too fast anyways. So this really comes into helpful for the slower rates up to, I want to say, about 125 to 150 is where this is really beneficial. Again, if you select one of the medication drips, the medication name itself, you tap on that, you'll go to the drill down, just like we did on the other one for midazolam. Here it is for hydroxycobalamin. Again, from here, if you push protocol, this would pull up the hydroxycobalamin drug protocol. It wouldn't pull up the cyanide poisoning protocol, but the actual one for the drug. But here you can look up all the specifics that have been entered about this particular medication. Back up to the tabs, the last tab on the right, equipment. This is where all the equipment for the selected weight will be shown. Whatever the department carries that they want people to know the sizes for will be listed here. This was where also your electricity joules will be listed. You'll just slide up and down and look for the right piece of information. But this will give you everything that you might need for blade sizes, tube depths, combi tube sizes, joule settings, pediatric or adult combo pads, whatever the department has that has sizes we can put in here so you can make sure you have all the data that you need. Okay, so let's go over the treatments tab. Treatments is pretty much what I use when I'm on my way to a call. So for this example, we'd be going to a 2-year-old and I would hit treatments and then select the treatment that I'm going to. So in this example, the first thing you did was you selected 10 months or 9 kilograms. Then you hit treatments. On the left here is what you'll see then, a list of all the treatments. These treatments match your protocol treatments. So this picture on the right says asthma. So what would happen here is I was going, let's say I got called and was going to a 10-month-old asthmatic. Driving to the call, I'd slide to 10 months, hit treatments, and then I would look up and down and look for asthma. I'd select asthma, and then on the right here you'll notice that it says asthma 10 months, and then it only provides me the medications I need for asthma. Whatever the range of asthma, you know, I might not need to treat this person with epinephrine, but there it is if I do. It also shows drips there. I can tap drips if I need to hang a drip. There's no equipment listed here because nothing has been assigned for asthma. You could determine that you want to put intubation stuff here, and that would show up, but that's all department specific on what they want. Now in these two examples, the one on the right, you'll notice we selected 2 years, and then we went to treatments and we selected anaphylaxis, pediatric. Again, you'll see all the medications needed for anaphylaxis and or allergic reaction for pediatric. And you'll notice that on the bottom of that one on the left, the red checklist button. The screen on the right shows a gray checklist button. What this means is that there is a checklist for that specific treatment. So here you could select anaphylaxis pediatric and you just push that red button and the anaphylaxis checklist will pull up. The one on the right, if you push checklist button, nothing would happen because there is no checklist. So that flips to red if there's a checklist assigned to that specific treatment. Now here you can also push the protocol button. So the one on the left, we were here for anaphylaxis and I wanted to view the protocol for anaphylaxis. In the previous ones, when we pushed protocol, that went to the specific medication. But because we're not in the drill down for the medication, we're in the actual just treatment, we push protocol, it's going to pull up the anaphylaxis protocol. The one on the right, pain management, would pull up the pain management protocol. If you wanted to look up, for example, the protocol for morphine, on the right, you'd have to select morphine to the drill down, then push protocol to view that one. But if your screen looks like this and you're viewing a treatment with a list of medicines, the checklist button will indicate if there's one for that, and protocol will then pull up the exact protocol that you're looking for that specific treatment. So it's a way to reference all the things you might need from one specific spot. So this is why when I'm going on a call, I usually go through treatments. If I'm going to a call with, and I don't really know what I'm going for and I just want to have all my things set up, I'll go through meds and equipment. That way I can finger through to find exactly the exact one I want. The third blue button says treatment groups. Now this is something that in probably a future version may be going away. The content won't be going away, but the button possibly could be. What treatment groups is allows you to group treatments together. For example, burns. Burns tells you to refer to pain management, refer to fluid resuscitation, refer to RSI. So this allows you to group treatments together. So if you're going on something, you can filter down the specific treatments that you might want to look at. What I'm thinking of doing is taking all the content in here and just putting it into treatments. So if you selected treatments, you might see one that says burns group instead of just burns. That way you knew that if you selected that, it's going to give you all the treatments you want. But for now, we'll go over what treatment groups is here on the next slide. So the slide on the left is basically a list of all the treatment groups. The slide on the right is what would happen if you selected one. So for example, on the left, you'll see the bottom one says crush injury. The one on the right says crush injury, pain, hyperkalemia, cardiogenic shock. That is all the treatments listed for if you're going on a crush injury. If you pulled the protocol under crush injury, it just tells you to refer to pain, refer to hyperkalemia, refer to cardiogenic shock. So this basically is just a way to, again, help filter down the data so that what you need is in front of you at all times. This on the right will be similar to what you'll see in treatments. On the left, all those will be mixed into the treatments, if that makes any sense. If you're confused about this, don't worry, I am too, and which is why I think we're going to kind of make it go away. But the idea behind it will still keep, but just maybe display it a little bit differently. So up to this point, we've covered how to select a weight, how to edit an age, and then the 3 blue buttons. Along the bottom of the app screen, you'll see these tiles, these 5 tiles. In the next slides, we'll go over each one, but they basically all provide some different things. Some of them get linked to treatments, some of them don't get linked to anything. We'll cover each one individually here. The first tile is checklists. Again, if it flips red and you're in a specific treatment and you select checklist, it pulls up the specific one. So in our previous example of anaphylaxis, the button was red. When we pushed it, the anaphylaxis checklist pops up. Now, not all checklists have a treatment. For example, stroke, there's no medication or anything given. Syncope, trauma, there's nothing given there. So there's no treatment for it to link to. If you want to view a list of all the checklists, from the home screen, you push the checklist button and you'll get a list like you see here on the left of all of them. And you can slide up and down to find the correct one, select it, and the one on the right is what you'll see. The cool thing about this is that if any change within a specific checklist needs to be made, your administrator can make it, re-upload a new one, and your app gets uploaded with the most current thing. So as long as you're using the app and it's uploaded itself, which we'll go over here in a bit, you'll always have the most current checklist and data that you are assigned. The next tile over is called references. Now references, unlike checklists and protocols, don't get linked to any specific drug or treatment. They are just specifically reference material. These are just some examples on the left. You know, you can provide 12-lead reminders, ACLS reminders, a miscellaneous, MCI. Really the list goes, it's infinite of what could be provided for you. So if you have an idea of something that you think other providers would benefit from reference material, contact your MSO and let them know. And they can talk and get that organized and see about getting it put on Check the Dose. But again, none of this gets linked to anything. So these are always available. If you hit that reference button, they'll all become available. The third tab, called protocols. This is where all your protocols get listed. Just like checklists, if you're in a specific treatment and you push protocol, you'll view that specific protocol. But again, not all things have a treatment. For example, if you wanted to look up what designates a minor, or when do I need to contact and speak to a doctor, you know, you'll want to refer to your protocols. So from the home screen, you can push protocols and it'll give you basically all the categories that our protocols are listed out, and you just select the one you want to view, and on the right there, that's what you'll see. Now, if you have Apple, you can do the regular pinch and zoom on these that you all are used to. If you have Android, unfortunately, that feature with the program that we have, they don't have that built in. So you'll see the plus and minus sign at the top. You just tap on those and it zooms in, and then you can slide it left and right. You know, if you zoom in too far, you can kind of scroll the page around with your finger. But hopefully in the future, that feature is able to come in. Another feature that I'm trying to work on the protocol list there on the left is a search feature. So if you knew the title, you could just start typing the name of, you know, part of the word that you were looking for, and it would filter down. But hopefully that comes in the future versions. The fourth tab is your contact list. This is where your administrator can make sure that you have all the correct phone numbers all the time. With this system, no longer does the phone operator have to make sure they go in and update the contact list. So, you know, you now have 4 numbers to the hospital, or you got the wrong number to somebody. This is all done centrally, and your app stays updated. On the left, you'll see a list of categories. These are just example categories. Your department may have something different. This is all customizable to how your department wants to lay this out. But for this example, you'd select hospital, and you'd see what you have on the right here, where it has a list of all the hospitals. The phone number on the right, if you select that phone number, your dialer will automatically pull up and it will make the phone call for you. If you select the hospital name or whoever the contact is, if it's the name of a person, if you were in a different group, would then show you the box on the right, which is basically the drill down for the contact. And it's going to show you all the details. If there's multiple phone numbers, they'll all list out there. If there's a cell phone, a work phone, or a station number, you'll see them all there. Again, you can tap on the number from that screen, it'll call. You can tap on the address and a map will pull up and map you right to that location. Currently it maps you to the address, but as some of you know, the address does not always take you to the ambulance bay. So future versions, I'm going to try and add in GPS coordinates so we can actually input the GPS coordinates for the ambulance bay and assign that to that address. So when you pick the address, it will actually map you to the bay to get right where you need to go. You know, some of those aren't that big of a deal because we all know where you know, your local hospital is. But if you're going down to downtown Seattle, going to Swedish Cherry Hill, and you don't know where the ambulance bay is, which some of you may not, that will help solve that. You also have listed here your door codes. So if a hospital changes a door code, your administrator can log in, change the door code, your app gets updated, and you always have the correct door code for any door that you need to get into. The final tab here is the settings tab. The first button you'll see says refresh data. If you push this, the app will shut down. It will dump all the data that is stored on the phone, and when you reopen the app, it requires you to re-log in. This will then download all the data again. One thing to make note of, the first time you turn the app on and you log in, it might take a minute or two for the app to download all the data that goes to the phone. And we'll go over why that's important here in the next minute. But every time after that, the app should only take anywhere from 5 to 10 seconds to load up, depending on your phone and just how things work. But the first time, or if you hit refresh data, the app is going to take a little bit of time to download all the information onto the phone. The toggle below that says small screen mode. This is where you would toggle back and forth to those Android and iPhone screens that we went over at the beginning. If you toggle this, you have to go back to almost the home screen and then go back into meds and equipment, and you can kind of see that change. If you have an iPhone and you toggle and you go back into meds and equipment, you don't see a change, you just need to toggle a few more times. It has to do with how the thing is built to auto select, and if you have iPhone, it's going to auto select that mode, and basically when you toggle, it's going to toggle into the mode you're already on. So it can be a little confusing and you think it doesn't work, but it is working. You just maybe have to do it a few times to find the right sequence. Below that says age selector. It was suggested that we reverse the color slider at the top of the screen when you select your weight, but we gave you the option. If you want to start with the highest, heaviest weight, you toggle this right here, and that will then reverse the slider. And so when the app turns on, it'll start, for this example, at 150 kilos, and you slide down. Some people thought you're going to see many more adults than you are kids, so let's start it that way. So that is an individual thing you can set on your own phone. Now, when you toggle this one, you have to shut the app down and re-turn it on. For Android users, usually there's a button that you hit that opens up all your apps and you can slide and swipe to turn it off. For Apple, I think you double tap your button to get all your apps to show up, and you swipe to turn it off. And then just go to the little app icon and reload. Again, it's not a re-sign in, so it should load fairly quickly. But then the age selector or the weight selector will be in the correct mode that you've selected. And every time after that is how it will be, unless you push the refresh data button. Again, that button dumps everything and makes you restart over. But there's not a whole lot of things to restart over. That is also a way to manually refresh your data, which we'll go over data connectivity and how that all works in the upcoming slide. So connectivity is not needed for Check the Dose to work. Now, it is needed for the initial install because all the data has to upload to your phone. And the reason that the app can work with no connectivity is just because it does download all the data. So this is where it's important that we don't want to load, 5,000 pages of SOGs into the reference material, because all those pages get put on your phone. So, use the system wisely. Use it for things that you know you're going to need in the field or your providers are going to need. But every 24 hours, if you log in, let's say you open the app 10 hours later, it's going to say, well, I've only opened 10 hours ago, I'm not going to update, and it's going to open the app. But if you open the app at 25 hours, it'll say, hey, it's been over 24 hours, let me go and check and see if there's any new time-stamped material or new uploads. And if there are, it will download them. So basically, every day you go to shift, if you hadn't logged in, since the previous day, it should be updated. Now, if you want to manually update, you can click refresh data and just re-log in, and then you will always have the most up-to-date data every time. But again, it will auto-update itself after coming off a shift, after a day off and coming back and you reopen the app. It will re-update itself automatically. You've heard me talk about administrators and users. This slide just kind of goes over just general topics of what the difference is. The administrator basically has the ability to log into the website. All the data content that you see on your app is managed via a web portal where you enter in all your medications, you enter in all your concentrations, you upload all your content, you edit your phone numbers. Your administrators have ability to do this and log in and make all those changes. Most of you are phone users, and what that means is you have it on your phone, you use your login to get on your phone, but that login wouldn't log you on the web, but you just basically view the data that you see. Also, every administrator is also a user, so the same password and login that you use, it's just determined your setting, your administrative rights are in there. And you can also change people throughout. So let's say you had somebody who wanted to become an administrator and that was approved. A current administrator could log in, find that user, change their status to administrator, and now that phone user becomes an administrator and can make all the changes. And vice versa, you can take people off just the same as you put them on. And that concludes all the features currently listed on Check the Dose. Here's my contact number for the Check the Dose if you have any questions or concerns, or you're having troubles logging in, or something just doesn't look right. You can contact your MSO, make sure the data is correct, and but you can also contact me and we can try and work that out and make sure that it's working correctly for you.